Manila Podcast Syndicate production. Samut-Sari Conversation with Mimi, to connect with other women who may need someone to talk to around everyday's life issues and challenges, from managing career and household to inner productivity, relationships, and other hot topics. Samut-Sari Conversation with Mimi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Samut-Sari Conversations with Mimi. Today, we have a special guest, and she's a person who lives in New York City, USA, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. Before I introduce her, I'd like to let you guys know that Samut-Sari Conversations with Mimi is a program, is a podcast where we talk about lots of topics of interest to women and, of course, men alike. And we also feature guests that really do extraordinary things in their ordinariness. So we want to promote positivity in this show. We want to promote passion, commitment, and talents. And we want to share with you inspirational aspects of our guests' lives. So join me, Mimi Laurelia, in welcoming Elly Ables to the show. Hi, Elly. How are you?
Hello, Mimi. I'm good.
It's
Uh,
been more than 20 years since I think I last saw you and your hobby.
was
Uh,
it? Oh,
yes,
wow.
that was. I remember when I went to New York. That was a conference I attended, and my youngest daughter was just, I think, 6 months old when I
Oh, wow.
attended that conference.
And now she's 20?
Almost.
Okay.
So
All
no,
right.
maybe not 20 years, maybe 19-ish years, or she's not even a year old then.
Right,
So
right, right.
so I'm really missing the USA that much.
I know.
And I don't know when I'll be back. But today
Yeah.
is really a nice day to chat about life in New York, because I'm down under, and you are in the
Right.
are you in the west or east? I'm not even sure
It
about
depends. It depends on where you are,
exactly.
so,
So
right.
if we'll just look at the map of the USA, you should be in the east.
Right. We are, yeah, we are on the east. We
You are
are
in
on the
the
east
east.
coast. Yeah.
And the nice thing
Right,
about
right.
us being so much apart is the distance will not matter. And there's always a
True.
way to connect.
Yeah, thanks to technology, right?
Yes, thanks to technology. So I really want to introduce you, Ellie, to our listeners today.
Okay.
And I want to read something that you sent me before we deal with the
Okay.
before we deal with
I
the
didn't.
nitty gritty of our conversation. I just
Yeah, I
wanted to
didn't think that
just
you would.
um I really am so curious about this. So if you don't mind, I'll
Okay.
I'll read it and I'll let you
Okay.
expound on it. So
All right.
ladies and gentlemen, when I asked Ellie to give me a little something about herself, she said she builds castles in the air at a very young age. And if you catch me staring into space, that's because I am somewhere between the purple beaded mountain and the deep blue sea. I am always at the crossroads. I paint, but I am not an amor solo. I play the piano, but I am not a Schumann. I sing, but I am no Madonna. I cook, but I am no Julia Child. I know something called immunometabolism. Wow, that was a mouthful. Science, but I am no Marie Curie. So that was a very, I don't know, it's like a literary magical piece for me to hear. So tell me in a nutshell, what do you mean when you said
No,
all those things?
no, I think it's just a good way of saying that I don't have a focus. I mean, I don't want to say that I cannot focus, so I just wrote that piece, just to let people know that I can do these things, but I cannot do it really very well, I guess.
I don't believe that, but I'll comment later. I'll let you expound on that.
Right. No, because whenever I do something that I really care about, like I'm passionate about, somehow I get distracted because I see, well, just for example, when I start to paint and then my head starts singing, and okay, so wait a minute, I'd like to sing. Or when I start to play the piano, oh my God. And then I start looking around, I'd like to paint this. So I start to draw and paint. Really, I don't have a focus. And my father would always tell me that if you can only just focus on one thing, I think you'll be the best in that, whatever
Mhm.
it is that you're focusing on. And same true with my career or the lack thereof. Like when I was a little girl, I would always wanted to be a doctor. But then, things happen, and I always have these ideas in my head.
Mhm.
I overthink. I overthink stuff, and then I go the other way. That's I think that's what I meant when I wrote that.
Mhm. But you know what? It
Mouthfuls.
shows to me your feeling that you
Mhm.
lack focus. To me, is not a bad thing, really. To me, it's a way that you express yourself, that you are
Right.
willing to explore. That's my reading of what you said, because I'm the same thing. Some
Hmm.
people say I'm so organized, I'm so focused, but that's not the reality. I think as women, we do a lot of things, we multitask, we have a lot of interests, and it's your way of self expression. Do you believe?
Right.
You
I
agree?
think
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some truth in that. Like for example, if you give me a task, I can do it. You know, but if, for example, someone would say, "I need a painter" or "I need a pianist," that's not me, because I don't call myself a pianist, or I don't call
Mhm.
myself a painter. But if there's no one else in the room, I would gladly do it. That's yeah,
We're
that's my take
discovering
on
a lot
that.
about you, Ellie. I'm loving this conversation. Let's unpack it a little bit. So let's
Right.
let's start with your career. Okay, let's start with your
Okay.
career. You
All right.
mentioned the technical terminology immunometabolism, and I
I know
know
that's.
that you work in a laboratory and a science lab, a
Mm-hmm.
research lab in New York. So can you
Right.
start by, just jogging the memory a little bit in terms of how it all began? Because
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that you finished the Bachelor of Science in Food Technology,
Right.
and then you are in a laboratory. Is this a food
Right.
related industry, a non food related industry? How did you merge everything, or did you break away from your original path? Tell our audience a little bit about your professional life.
Okay. So, well, let me start by saying I married a man that I didn't think that would take me to places. Okay. So it wasn't really in my plan to go to Japan, because we went there for his PhD, and come here in the US. So when I got into this marriage thing, I realized I had to be flexible. I cannot just be so selfish
Mm-hmm.
and just focus on myself. So when I joined him in Japan with my then 6-month-old baby, I couldn't work as a food technologist
Mm-hmm.
because I do not speak the language. I don't know anyone there. So I had to just do whatever that is given to me, and that is teaching English to professionals, to children. So that's what I did for 3 or 4 years in Japan. Completely not a food technology thing. So when we came here in New York, I did not have anything to do for a while, but Gene, well, that's my husband. So he told me, why don't you volunteer in the lab? You have a science degree. That shouldn't be so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like I said before, I mentioned earlier that I really wanted to be a doctor, right? Like a physician.
Yeah.
And medical science was really one of the field that I'm so interested in. So I said, okay, why not? So I worked with him in his laboratory for 2 years. I learned a lot about molecular biology and all that stuff. And then eventually I came to love it. And then to make the story short, I was hired by one of the lab, a big lab, as a technician. And then eventually I moved to another lab, which I am in right now. And that's it. I've been enjoying my work ever since.
Mm-hmm.
I am technically a laboratory technician / manager, but my boss is so kind to give me projects to lead. So I'm so grateful that I think he
He trusts you a
sort
lot.
of trusted me, and he sort of think that I can handle
Mm-hmm.
such a job. And yeah, so that's how I came
You
to
got
do
into
medical
you
science.
yeah, you branched out into a totally different field. I
Right,
think that's
right.
one of the things we Filipinos are really good at, which means we are constantly evolving in our
True.
careers, in our life, to adapt
Right.
to the changes of moving to another
Mm-hmm.
country.
Mm-hmm.
Just like me, my background is more in communication, more in teaching. I
Right.
started as a radio person at UPLB, and then I moved
Mm-hmm.
to New Zealand. Now I'm here in Australia. I'm in a different field, but doing this podcast is like me going back to my roots. Um,
True.
your
Right.
your your work as a uh, medical and laboratory technician really
Mm-hmm.
is something that not a lot of people will grasp when they
Right.
hear the
Okay.
terminology.
I know.
Um,
I know.
so can you describe to us exactly what is the lab doing? What is the purpose
Okay.
of the lab, and what sort of things is the lab in what's the focus of your technical work?
Okay, so I would have to really dumb down the terms because highly scientific words will just put off people.
Mm,
So the lab is studying obesity and metabolism, diabetes, but we are focusing. So initially, we were focusing on how the body's immune system is reacting to obesity and diabetes. So we're studying a lot of these immune cells. I don't want to describe them because for me, it took a while to understand. So
mhm.
so that's just the gist of it.
Yeah.
And now we are branching to, because there's this COVID-19 going on, right?
Yes.
So, and because there has been some data that show obesity is the number one risk factor for
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19. And so I think the lab will be doing some research about that and
Mm-hmm.
trying to tease
Wow.
out whatever it is that's causing the death and the severity of the COVID-19 in obese people.
Yes.
So
Very
right,
good
right.
to mention COVID-19, because your work
Sure.
becomes a little your work is not like a frontliner per se, but it's
No.
the background. It's the background to discovering how we can really get to the bottom of this.
Right, right,
Helps. And I
right.
think the listeners of this podcast will also um, I mentioned to them already in New York at the beginning of this introduction of the show. You live
Mhm.
in the center or the
We
epicenter of
do.
the COVID-19 in the
We
US.
do. I know. I
I'm not
know. Oh
laughing
my
because
goodness.
it's a funny matter, but I'm laughing because of the coincidence. You're
I
in the middle
know.
of everything that's going on. Can you give our
Right.
listeners a flavor of what life is like in New York City amidst this COVID-19?
Okay, so we don't have a lockdown like other
Funnily
countries,
enough, you
and
don't
like
have a
now we
lockdown.
don't have a lockdown, but we have a shelter in place. So people who are non-essential workers are advised to stay at home. If they can work at home, then just stay at home. Only those who are essential workers. And what are those? Who are those essential workers? Of course, the healthcare workers, the people who take your garbage, the police officers, the people who work in supermarkets, who provide for food, and restaurants that deliver or cook
Mm-hmm.
food for you to pick up. But most of the people, and I mean those who work in the financial district, really don't need to come to work. All they need is a laptop or a computer, and they can work at home. So that's how it is until now in New
Mm-hmm.
York City. When you take the subway, which is the common mode of transportation for New Yorkers, there's not a lot of people in the train and buses. So only those who are, like I said, essential workers are in there, including me
Mm-hmm.
actually. I sometimes take the subway because I need to go to the lab twice a week,
Yeah.
right? And so that's how it is. But people, for example, today is a nice day. It's the weekend. You can see people in the park, walking around and having picnic maybe, but they socially distance themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing. Which is amazing because I didn't think that New Yorkers would actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can see them that they're distancing themselves from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Last weekend was a whole what do they call this, a long weekend for us. It was a Memorial Day weekend for us, and normally people would go out and have barbecue and go to the beach. Well, I don't know about the beach because we didn't go to the beach, but we
Mm-hmm.
went to the park, Central Park, me and my husband Gene, and there's not a lot of people. I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's just what you see are residents, the
Yeah.
resident New Yorkers. There are no tourists, and you see people that usually. So when you look at the massive Central Park area where you can lay down your picnic blanket, you
Yes.
see a lot of people congregating.
Yeah.
But that moment last week, we actually see people distancing themselves from another
Mm-hmm.
group of people, which is so nice, and I was happy to see that.
Yeah. You're probably
And
amazed.
yeah, because I did really think, oh, really, I was so pessimistic
Mm-hmm.
about New Yorkers because New Yorkers are really stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
But and anyway, you can still see people not wearing masks. I mean, what can you do? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't, right? Yeah. There
Because
are
here in
those
Australia, it's
people,
not really recommended for you to wear a mask unless you
right,
are the one who is not feeling well,
right,
or you look
right,
after people that are vulnerable, for example, the
right,
elderly or another sick person at home. So
right.
otherwise, you're just free to, just go out as long as you practice social distancing.
Yeah, yeah. For us,
Um,
because we are in the epicenter, we need to
Yes,
put on
yes,
a
you need to.
mask.
I can't
Right.
really
Yeah.
imagine that because I remember the first time I arrived in New York, you and Jean,
Mhm.
you took me to Central Park before we went
Right.
floating to the Statue of Liberty. So
Mhm.
my thought always is that how is this like a 360-degree turn when New
Mhm.
York City is the city that never sleeps? And then
Right.
on TV we can see almost empty
Mhm.
streets and even the Times Square. So how
Mhm.
do you feel as a person who has been living there? And I'm assuming you are going to live there now as a permanent resident or even a
Mhm.
citizen. How do you
Mhm.
think this will change now? How do you think your new normal would look like for New York? Yeah.
It really remains to be seen. So the mayor and the governor, that they keep on having these press conferences every day, would always stress to the people that we will open the city or the state, but it does not mean that we will go back to where we were before.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a new normal. New normal meaning you have to put on your mask all the time, especially when you're in a crowded area. Well, not a crowded area because we're not supposed to crowd, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in a public
Yeah.
places, and you're supposed to socially distance yourself, right? So that's those are the mandates by the governor and the mayor. And the governor even signed an executive order, I think it was yesterday, saying that business owners have a right to not let you come to their business vicinity if you don't wear a mask.
Right.
They
Oh, so
won't.
they
They
have the
won't
legal
be.
right. They have the
Yes, they
legal
have
right
the
to
legal
turn you
right. They
away.
won't. Right. They won't be penalized at all.
Mm.
So, and because we're still not open, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see by June 8th. I think the phase one of opening for New York City will happen in June 8th. Phase one meaning of course, the essential workers and the businesses will open, the retailers will open, but only for pickups,
Mm.
curbside pickups. You can't go inside and have a drink or a meal for in case of restaurants. You can't go inside and shop for whatever.
Yeah.
I love Sephora. I love Sephora. You can go to
You're
Sephora
like my
and
daughters.
you
They
know
love Sephora too.
right now. But what you can do is you can order online and go to the store and pick it up.
Yeah.
That's the
What about
phase
the
one.
tourism industry, Ellie? How is that going to play
I
out in New
don't
York?
right. I really don't know. Um, I think well, so that's not really the main concern, tourism, because I think people coming from other states will still come to New York. I
Yeah.
just don't know about international tourists. But I think the pressing issue right now is the rent, the building, the spaces that these companies like big banks, Chase, Morgan, Citibank, all those. I think that would the city will lose an income from
Yes.
that because
Yeah.
people working in financial district, I don't think they need to come to
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they don't fill up this spaces, then they don't need the spaces anymore.
That's true.
And the city is how do I say this? The tax that is generated from this spaces is very important to the city. The
Mm-hmm.
city is relying so much
Yeah.
on the taxes
Yeah.
from
I
this.
believe that
So
because
I don't
even
know.
here, yeah, even here,
Hmm.
we all know that the economic impact, aside from the health
Hmm.
impact of this COVID-19, is huge. Especially in
Right.
the U.S., you are the most the wealthiest country on earth, and if you feel that the impact is also so severe, imagine countries like the Philippines, for
I
example,
know. I don't even
and
want to imagine that. Yeah.
yeah. So let's turn things around and let's go back to
Hmm.
your bubble, your family, your immediate
Okay.
family bubble. Um, how do you feel being the only rose in your home and being so
Oh, oh.
busy? You know, you're a career woman. You go to the lab, and at the same time, you're the mom and the ilaw ng tahanan,
All right,
looking
right,
after
right.
your boys. How do you juggle those things? How is life in New York as a mother?
Okay. So first of all, I'll tackle the flower among the thorns.
Mm,
I've been the flower among the thorns in my entire life. I don't have a sister. I have two brothers. So, and now I lost my mom in 2011. So it's just my father and my two brothers. So, and me. So I'm always have been the only girl in the family.
Mm.
As for my little family here in New York, I would have to say it's so important to have a very supportive husband. I don't do everything. I don't take care of the household, all the household chores. I
Mm-hmm.
have someone who helped me. Otherwise, I'll go crazy,
Yeah,
you know?
that's a
So,
bonus. We'll give
right.
Jean a big tick for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I cannot imagine to those women who doesn't have any support from their husband, or those who are living alone, or those who are single mothers. I don't know how they do it, because it's crazy. Like when you come back home from work, you need to cook. So I need to
Mm-hmm.
cook. And then after eating the meals, you need to take away the dishes and wash the dishes and all that, and clean the kitchen. And then after that, you have to worry about the laundry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then need to worry about of course, you need to clean your apartment or your house. But gladly, I'm so lucky. I don't need to do all that, because I got help. After eating dinner, someone takes charge of washing the dishes,
That's
things like
good.
that.
That's
And
good.
someone is doing the laundry, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So yeah, it's not really that hard for me here in the city, and
Yeah.
I cannot speak for everyone though.
Of course.
I don't
And
know.
this is
Yeah.
exactly the reason why we want to showcase, different people's experiences where they
Right,
live,
right,
just so
right.
that the other listeners or the viewers, because I'm also on YouTube, so the viewers, I'm very confused, listeners, audience, viewers, um,
Right.
because, life in the Philippines is different. I interviewed a friend, and she's also a
Hmm.
working mom, and she
Right.
tells me a kind of like a different story. But I
Hmm.
think that's because that's the Filipino context, and you are, of
Hmm.
course, in a
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now.
first world,
Right.
the developed world context.
Right. Right. Right.
There are things that are available to you, and why wouldn't
Hmm.
you take up on the offer if it's available to you, diba? So,
True. True.
so
True.
you that's the reason why I find it that you needed that. You needed that support from your husband. You needed that support
True.
from your son, so that you
Yeah.
can also have a little bit of time for yourself. For example, you you play the piano, you sing, and you find an outlet also, and to look after yourself and your passions. Like me, this is
True.
a passion. My singing is a passion. I'm glad that
Hmm.
my daughter is also into singing, so it's a passion
Right.
as well.
Right.
So
Right.
what is your tip, or what is your advice for moms who are also like you, doing different things, feeling
Hmm.
that you are not focused, but you're actually just expressing your different interests.
Hmm.
How could a person living in this COVID-19 situation cope? If you were to give them an advice, Ellie, what would that be?
So I guess, do not be scared of doing things that you want to do. Like I don't believe that people do not have a passion for something, or like a hobby. I don't believe that, because each and every one of us have something that we are really passionate about. If you want to sing and you don't, like myself, and you don't think that you have a good voice, who cares?
It's
Just do
yes,
it,
exactly,
right?
exactly, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you want to draw, even if it's just a stick, people, do it. Who
Mm-hmm,
cares? The
mm-hmm,
most important thing is that you keep your mind um, busy,
mm-hmm,
and keep all this not good, I don't want to say bad thoughts, let's just say bad thoughts,
mm-hmm,
off your mind.
mm-hmm.
You have to engage yourself in something that is more fun for you to do.
Of course.
If you like cooking, cook, go ahead. If you like playing games, like my son, oh my goodness, he plays computer games the whole day, I think, right now. Go ahead. As long as you don't have time to think of evil thoughts.
Life
Yeah,
is
you
too
don't
short to
go
worry
there.
about those things, Life
Exactly.
is, so just pursue your whatever it is
Right.
that you wish to
Right.
do and be happy that you're doing.
Right. I have this friend. I have this friend. He's a younger person. He calls me ate. And he recorded his piano playing. He played the piano and he recorded. And he sent it to me and he said, Ate, should I post it? And I told him, well, if you don't post it, I will grab it and post it for you. Because what is music if no one can hear it?
That's
and
right.
Then he said, yeah, right? So I said, okay, thank you for supporting me. And then he posted it and he felt happier. So, those kinds of things, I think nowadays, forget about being shy, forget about what people would say, just do what you want to do.
Yeah. And this is exactly why I thought you would be the perfect guest, because you always radiate that positive aura, positive vibes. And that's exactly what we need. We need positivity in our lives. And we're not getting any younger. We are almost in the middle of our life. It's not called midlife crisis, but we are going towards the second half or second level of our lives. And time is you don't want to waste time. You want to grab whatever opportunities that you wanted to grab. Especially with this COVID. Anyway, Elly, I really enjoyed the time that we spent. I wish I could go on and on and on and on. But obviously, there's always a limit to the time that I can have with you. So I really want to thank you that you've given us an insight about your job. You've given us an insight about what life is like currently there in New York. And then you've got wonderful suggestions on how a person could enjoy life and not to be too worried about the maybe the nitty-gritty stuff. They need to enjoy. So thank you very much again for joining
You're very
me.
welcome.
To my audience today, if you have any stories or topics that you wish to feature in the show, please reach out to me via mimi@dynasocial.com. Samutsari is a member of the Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate, and you can also reach out to me via my Facebook, Twitter, or my YouTube channel. Thank you, Elly, and I hope that when we publish this, you can share it with your friends there in New York. And if you know of other people that can have a chat with us, let me know so we can spread good vibes all over the world.
Does it have to be a woman?
Oh, it can be anyone. It can be anyone. As long as we can chat with them, and maybe we can do a 3-way call or maybe a 4-way call. It doesn't matter as long as you are always available if I ask you to come back.
Sure, I am. I mean, I'm just here.
So, good morning in New York, and good afternoon and good evening everywhere else. This is Mimi signing off, and Elly and I will wave our hands goodbye and see you again in the next episode of Samutsari.
More power to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want to know more, check out www.guerrillapodcast.com.au or guerrillapodcast.com.ph. A Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate production.